Hi. Thank you all for coming today. I certainly wish I could see you all under different circumstances, but life has a way of throwing people a curveball. Such was Melissa's life. Anyway, as most of you know, I was kind of tasked against my will with saying a few words about Melissa today. This was her idea. She was the love of my life. Or rather, she became the love of my life. So this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. How do I capture in words Melissa's free spirit and joy of living, her warmth and loyalty? Like most of us, she was a self-contained contradiction. She could be obstinate, but she was forgiving. We got in a fight once, and she locked me out of the house when I was naked. That was the obstinate part. The fact that she let me back in moments later, that was the forgiving part. I don't even remember what the fight was about. That was life with Melissa. She could be petty, but she was open-minded. She could be spontaneous and funny, but she was the best listener I'd ever met. When we met, I was writing for a small magazine and she was teaching at a private school in Long Beach. I think we would have ended up together. In a way we did. And I think we would have gotten married if my career hadn't dragged me all over the country. Maybe I thought, when I decided to hang up my reporter's notebook, Melissa would be there. Perhaps the most amazing thing about her is that she was such an amazing person, despite the tragedies. Melissa had a tumultuous life. Her father died when she was young. She got married at a young age, too young, she told me. And she had a daughter named Kaylee, who was the light of her life. Every time I phoned to catch up, she would regale me with stories about her kid. That girl was Melissa's life. Then life threw Melissa a curveball. Her husband and their daughter tragically died in a car accident. When she told me this over the phone, I heard a hollowness in her voice I had never heard before. I immediately offered to return to Southern California, but she insisted that she didn't want to be a bother. Even after living through the worst thing, she insisted that she could weather it alone. But then she moved in with her mother, seemed to be doing well for a while. And her mother was diagnosed with cancer, and after a brief illness, died. This would break most of us. And at this point it did. It broke Melissa. I was listening to this long distance, and it broke me too. She checked herself into an institution. She was only there briefly, but I can't even imagine what she was going through. You would think that life couldn't throw anything else at Melissa, right? Shortly after she was discharged, she felt a lump in her breast. She was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. When she told me this over the phone, I did something very uncharacteristic. I quit my job and moved in with her in Pasadena. Her last year was difficult for her and me. I watched in slow motion as the spark dimmed from her eyes. The surgery scarred her body. The radiation sapped her strength and made her hair fall out. I drove her to her doctor's office and to her therapy. I did all the housework. I read to her. She never complained, even though I did all the cooking. All of these horrible things that happened to Melissa unfortunately turned her into, and I hate to speak ill of the dead as they say, but a world-class pessimist. She took every circumstance and spun it into a worst-case scenario. She could take a glass that was all the way full, and by the time she was done with it, not only was the glass empty, there was no glass. Many of my friends, and even hers, called Melissa an acquired taste, prickly, human valiant. And I get that. But the last year of her life, I could see why every calamity that befell her turned her overly cynical and negative. When I would call my friends to let them know I'd be in town, they wouldn't want to meet me if Melissa was going to be there. You know who you are. But I don't blame you. She was a product of her experiences, many of them tragic. And I don't dwell on that. I dwell on her humanity, her humor, her compassion. My love for her was unlike any love I've experienced with any other person. We accepted each other's differences. We respected each other. We were a team. In the end, my love was bittersweet. Perhaps I could have revolved my life around her more. But then if we spent more time together, perhaps our love wouldn't have been so abiding. Goodbye, Melissa. You touched so many lives. And you changed mine. I'll never forget you. I'll see you on the other side, my love. There are some refreshments in the back of the room. We have the room for another 15 minutes.
Hi, I'm Nick Weber. That was a lovely eulogy.
Hi, Nick. I'm John Corelli.
I'm Marla Landon. Thank you for speaking.
Melissa kind of made me promise to do it. Maybe she thought I'd go easy on her. How did you know her?
John, I'm Melissa's ex-husband.
I'm sorry. She never mentioned having another husband.
She didn't. I was her only husband. And we didn't have any children. She never had a child. At least, not that I know of.
I don't understand.
There was no child and there was no car accident.
John, I'm Melissa's mother.
Now I'm really confused.
Melissa was ill, John. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia while she was in college. She graduated and then got a job teaching.
That's when I met her. We taught at the same school.
Why would she... Why would she tell me that her husband and daughter died in a car accident and that her mother had died?
She was on medication for a while.
But she stopped taking it. She said it made her dull. I couldn't persuade her to keep taking it, but when she was off the meds, the voices in her head, they returned. It was heart-wrenching. It was like watching her descend down a long staircase into the dark. Once when I got home from grocery shopping, I was in the driveway unloading bags, and I turn around, and she's standing there holding a butcher knife. It scared the hell out of me. I said, "Honey, why do you have that knife?" And she said, "To keep people from stealing our food."
We would talk on the phone. She was totally convinced people were trying to kill her.
Yeah, her students too, 4th graders.
She heard whispers like muffled conversations in her head. Like if you went into a dinner party with 30 people all speaking at once and not being able to discern a specific thing being said. It was awful, John.
She did tell you the truth about being institutionalized. She was, for a while.
Her father, who is still very much alive, by the way, he and I requested a psychiatric hold on her. We thought she would be a danger to herself and others, but it was only for 72 hours, and after that she couldn't be held against her will.
I tried to stay with her, but I couldn't help her. She wouldn't listen to anybody.
After the divorce, her father and I, she dropped off our radar. My husband, Ted, he gave up on her. He refused to come today. He said he had done everything he could do for her, but if she refused treatment and refused to speak with us, then there was nothing more he could do. After she lost her job, we feared that there were times she was homeless.
Homeless? I would have known.
She was a very good liar, John. And with what you said, living all over the country, it's probably would have been impossible for you to know.
After the divorce, I moved to San Diego and remarried. I have 2 kids now.
I'm stunned.
We almost interrupted your eulogy to correct you, but we thought this would be a more diplomatic way of handling things.
Yeah, I'm really glad you were with her at the end, though. She deserved much better than life gave her, that's for sure.
Thank you so much for caring for my daughter. She certainly didn't ask to be sick, and that sickness eventually consumed who she was.
I loved her, Mrs. Landon. If you don't mind me asking, how did you find out about her death?
I saw the obit in the paper and I called Nick.
That makes sense.
Well, I better head back down now. It was nice meeting you, John, and again, thank you for helping Melissa at the end. If I would have known she was so sick.
No, there's no way any of us could have known it today. John, tell me your most indelible memory of Melissa.
Wow. Good question. I guess it would have to be when I was visiting LA once, years ago. From Boston, I think. She told me to meet her at the Griffith Observatory. I get there and she's carrying a basket. I was like, what's with the basket? It was a picnic lunch. Dinner, actually. Sandwiches, fruit, wine, and chocolate. It was so romantic, so spontaneous. We just sat around the grounds of the observatory, ate, drink wine, watch the sun go down. It's like one of those LA moments. So happy with her, surrounded by this natural beauty. I thought to myself, how lucky I am to be in this moment with her, together. What about you?
Let me think. There were so many. But I think the best was when her father and I taught her how to ride a bike. Ted had taken the training wheels off, and she was really scared. At first, she refused to pedal, and I told her, if you don't pedal, the bike's going to fall over. But she was afraid we would let go, and we told her, of course not. We ran along either side of the bike, and when she built up a good head of steam, we let her go. And of course,
She fell.
no, she rode like the wind, free like an unbridled horse. I looked at Ted, and we smiled at each other. In that moment, it was like the three of us were one. We had created this perfect little human. Gosh, she was such a delight as a child.
I wonder if I should tell the rest of the people here the truth, that they all signed the guest book. I could reach out to each one.
What good would that do?
I'm a journalist, Mrs. Landon. My inclination is toward the truth.
Call me Marla, please. And I understand. But why not just let her memory be? As you said, she was an acquired taste through no fault of her own. Let us just live with our memories of her.
I guess you're right. Well, thank you for coming, Marla. Thank you for telling me about Melissa.
You of all people deserve to know. Well, I guess I should be going home too. Will you be needing help with her effects?
I never really thought of that, because I didn't think she had any living relatives. Yeah, I guess if you don't mind.
Call or email. My info's in the guest book.
Thank you.
You're welcome, John. Bye.
Goodbye, Marla. Can we ever really know another person?